Hello, children. Now we move on to the second module of the story, The Christmas Truce. In the first module, we saw that Tom was writing a letter to his sister Janet. He felt compelled to write to his sister because he wanted to share the experience of that unique, beautiful Christmas Eve. The Germans and the Britishers were waiting for fresh supply of goods. They were hiding in the dugouts and trenches, and they lived in constant fear of being killed. It had rained, and the trenches were full of water. The mud used to get stuck to their boots. On the eve of Christmas, it snowed, and it was exceptionally cold that day. They were happy as the mud froze into solid, and there was shining white frost all over with bright sunlight, which created a perfect Christmas weather. Now, I move on to the next paragraph, page number 99, the third paragraph. During the day, there was little shelling or rifle fire from either side. As darkness fell, the shooting stopped entirely. Our first complete silence in months. We hoped it promised a peaceful holiday, but didn't count on it. We had been told the Germans might try to catch us off guard and attack. So on 24 December, there was decrease in firing. They could feel the silence. It was complete pin drop silence. It's a war zone, children, isn't it? The soldiers are used to that sound of firing, bullets, all that. But on 24th December, it was unusually quiet that day. The British soldiers had hoped for a peaceful holiday, but they could never trust the German soldiers because they were told that the Germans can attack any time. That is, when the British soldiers are unprepared. The word off guard means unprepared. Now, the next paragraph. I went to the dugout to rest and must have drifted off to sleep when my friend John suddenly shook me awake, saying, "Come and see what the Germans are doing." I grabbed my rifle, stumbled out into the trench, and stuck my head cautiously above the sandbags. So here, Tom is saying that he went to his dugout, the place where they generally rest, and he went to sleep. The word drifted off means just snoozed off, you can say, just went to sleep. Suddenly, his friend, that is another British soldier, came and woke him up. John asked him to come and see what the German soldiers were doing. Now, it's a battlefield. So Tom got up with a start. He was shocked. He jumped and took his rifle, that is his gun, and he stumbled. Stumbled means he was about to fall. He just stumbled out of the trench, the place where he was hiding, and very carefully he stuck his head above the sandbags. The word cautiously means carefully. Now, the next lines. I can never hope to see a stranger and more lovely sight. Clusters of tiny lights were shining all along the German line. What is it? I asked in bewilderment, and John answered, Christmas trees. So it was. The Germans had placed Christmas trees in front of their trenches, lit by candle or lantern like beacons of goodwill. The word bewilderment means confusion or surprise. Beacons mean symbols. So when Tom took his gun and he just cautiously put his head above and saw what happened, and he saw an unbelievable sight, children. The Germans had lit up Christmas trees along the barbed wire. That is, across the no man's land, no? In that barbed wire separation, they had lit small Christmas trees. And they were singing carols. Tom was watching in wonder and surprise and is asking John, what was all those things there? John replied that those were Christmas trees. It was Christmas Eve, isn't it? and the Germans had placed well-decorated Christmas trees in front of their trenches. The trees were decorated with candles, lanterns, beautiful lights. It looked like a symbol of friendly gesture, you can say. And Tom couldn't believe it. Now I move on to the next stanza. And then we heard them singing, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht. Now, children, in the next few paragraphs or somewhere to the end of the next page, we will find many German words here. Those are German, you can say, carols, and at the same time, the English translation is also given there. Now, German soldiers were singing in their own language, and some of the Britishers knew the song, and so they were also joining in. So it became somewhat like a carols, you can say. It is they are singing in bilingual language, both the languages. So they are Germans are singing in their own language, and the Britishers are singing in the English language. So this word, the first two words, what I said, that is Stille Nacht and Heilige Nacht. This refers to the English carol, Silent Night and Holy Night. So many of them couldn't understand the songs, but of course they could make out it was a carol. So I will continue reading the next page, page number 100. Roundabout till the middle of the page I will read. Okay, now look into your books. This carol may not yet be familiar to us in Britain, but John knew it and translated. Silent Night, Holy Night. I've never heard one lovelier or more meaningful in that quiet, clear night, its darkness softened by the first quarter moon. When the song finished, the men in our trenches applauded. Yes, British soldiers applauded Germans. Then one of our own men started singing, and we all joined in. The first Noel, the angel did say. In truth, we did not sound as good as the Germans with their fine harmonies, but they responded with enthusiastic applause. And then began another, O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum. Then we replied, O come, all ye faithful. But this time they joined in, singing the words in Latin. Adeste fideles. Britain and Germany harmonizing across no man's land? I would have thought nothing could be more amazing, but what came next was even more so. So I told you, Tom could not believe that these Germans had decorated their area with small Christmas trees. Now they have started singing also. So I told you, many words are there in German in their language, and the Britishers are trying to sing that in English language. So then first they started singing, and when the Germans started singing, the Britishers clapped their hands, they encouraged. These Britishers were not very familiar with the German carols, but then John, another British soldier, knows the translated form. So both the sides sang in bilingual chorus, you can say, that is in German language and in English. The British spontaneously responded by clapping and singing. Thomas finding is very strange, that is both the enemy armies are singing songs, that is carols, that too in the battlefield, okay. So in the beginning, Thomas saying that the Britishers were not very good singers. The Germans were better. There was synchronization in their songs and unity in their words. The way they were singing was much more musical, much more, you can say, in a synchronized manner. They were singing the carols. That means the Germans were much better than the Britishers. But then when you sing, you don't see all this, no children. So here, Tom is writing his surprise, his shock, his at the feeling of amazement, whatever he had. He wanted to convey this to his sister, Janet. Now, the next paragraph. English come over. We heard one of them shout. You know shoot, we know shoot. We looked at each other in bewilderment. Then One of us shouted jokingly, "You come over." To our astonishment, we saw two figures rise from a trench, climb over their barbed wire, and advance unprotected across no man's land. One of them called, "Send officer to talk." So the German suggested meeting in the neutral zone, that is, in the no man's land. The word bewilderment means surprised. And they wanted the English to come and talk to them. And they even said that they won't be shooting and the English soldiers should not shoot. So now the Britishers are feeling very strange. And you know what one soldier just said? In a jokingly manner, he said, "You come over." He invited the German soldiers to come this side. And to their astonishment or shock, you can say, two German soldiers, they came from their trench, climbed the barbed wire, and they reached the no man's land. And that too, they came to the no man's land without gun or without any arms. And one of them said, "Send the officer to talk." They wanted to talk to the British officer. Now, the next paragraph. "I saw one of our men lift his rifle to the ready, and no doubt others did the same. But our captain called out, 'Hold your fire.' Then he climbed out and went to meet the Germans halfway." So as the Germans came towards this no man's land, one of the British soldiers just lifted his gun. They couldn't trust these Germans, and he was ready to shoot. All the other British soldiers were also ready to attack, but the captain commanded them not to shoot. And then this captain climbed out of the trench and he himself crossed the barbed wire and went to the no man's land to meet these two German soldiers. Now the next paragraph. "We heard them talking, and a few minutes later the captain came back and announced, 'We have agreed that there will be no shooting before midnight tomorrow, but sentries are to remain on duty and the rest of you stay alert.' Sentries means those soldiers who are on guard duty. The word alert means to be vigilant, to be careful. So this British officer and the German soldiers, they talked for some time, and after a few minutes, the captain came back and he told these British soldiers that they had negotiated a truce. A truce means there would be no firing till Christmas midnight. The truce would last till Christmas night. The soldiers on guard duty should continue with their duty, and the others should be vigilant. But there will be no shooting. They will not attack each other." Now, the next paragraph. "Across the way, we could make out groups of 2 or 3 men starting out of their trenches and coming towards us. Then some of us climbed out too, and in minutes they were in no man's land. Over 100 soldiers and officers of each side shaking hands with men we have been trying to kill just hours earlier." So some German soldiers climbed and reached the no man's land. They were in a group of 2 and 3 soldiers, and the Britishers also came forward to meet them. Soon, 100 enemies, they were enemies, no children, this Britishers and Germans. These enemies were chatting around a bonfire, you can say. They were very happy to meet each other. They were greeting each other. Imagine, these soldiers were enemies. Just few hours before, they were trying to kill each other. And in the same battlefield, now they have become friends and they are celebrating Christmas. Now we come to the end of the second module.